Independent experts are looking to create a source of unbiased medical information. A pharmacist saves a man from dying in her drive-thru, and we talked to a member of the APhA research and scientist community to get the latest on her work there. That's just some of what we're talking about on today's RX Report, where you get your health, your news delivered. I'm your host, Manuel, coming to you from the home of pharmacy at the American Pharmacists Association in Washington, D.C. Holy cow, it's hot. We've got a lot to talk about today, so be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, leave a comment on anything and everything we talk about today, and join the conversation on today's topics. And let's dive in. For our first story, strap in because we're diving into some saucy vaccine policy news. As we elaborated on the last show, recently ACIP underwent a total makeover. More accurately, the previous 17 members were fired and replaced with 8 new members. Here's where it gets interesting. Public health groups, pharmacy associations, medical associations, and patient advocacy groups are all coming together into one big group and forming coalitions to discuss recommended clinical vaccine guidelines grounded in science. One of these is the Vaccine Integrity Project, which recently reported the most urgent and critical items needed to protect public health and the healthcare system. These coalitions are talking to state governments and insurance plans about guidelines and schedules, because guess what? Right now, insurers only pay for shots on the CDC schedule, and pharmacists in the majority of states can only immunize per the CDC schedule. Mess with those schedules, and coverage and pharmacy access could vanish. National and state pharmacy associations, led by APhA, are drafting emergency governor directives in response to these huge changes to assure pharmacy-based vaccine access for patients. But wait, our story's not yet done. Over 100 other medical groups are sending sternly worded letters to the government demanding that they restore the previous ACIP. And through all of this, you gotta feel just a little bit for the regular citizens trying to keep themselves and their family responsibly healthy. Who do you trust when such massive paradigm shifts are happening? The new panel? Maybe. The original science-driven ACIP? Classic with awards and everything. Or the new Vaccine Integrity Project? It's kind of like Mission Impossible, but with syringes. Will the new ACIP members pull off a reboot that wins America's trust back? Or will independent experts swoop in as the backup band, saving the day with peer-reviewed protocols and recommendations covered by insurance? Let me know in those comments. Bottom line, there's a full-blown struggle playing out behind the scenes of your next flu or COVID shot. So stay informed, stay curious, and if all else fails, stay tuned to RX Report, where we will keep you updated. We'll get to our next story in a moment, but first, hey, APhA community. Yeah, you. Exciting news for you. Nominations are now open for the 2026 APhA Awards and Honors Program, the pharmacy profession's highest recognition of leadership, innovation, and service in pharmacy. This is your chance to spotlight the mentors, colleagues, and rising stars who are making a real difference in patient care and advancing the pharmacy profession. With award categories spanning things like profession-wide honors, science and research, pharmacist practice, and even the prestigious APhA Fellow designation, there is a space to celebrate every type of changemaker in our field. Nominations are open through September 8th, 2025, so don't wait. Head to pharmacist.com/membership/awards to submit your nomination today. For our next story, quick question for you. What's the most stressful thing about your job? Maybe Dan is always stealing your stapler, or your boss is demanding 1.5 instead of double spacing. Maybe you put on a weekly health show and hope to God that you don't get too sweaty in front of the lights. That's relatable, right? We can all relate to that. Well, that's nothing compared to what pharmacist Megan Alt recently went through, as she made headlines for saving not one but 2 people's lives during her recent work shift. I can barely handle the stress of reading our YouTube comments, so saving someone's life on the job is completely out of the realm of my possibility at the very least. But to find out more about her experience and how she did it, we welcome Megan to the show, and we're going to introduce her to you right now. All right, I am joined here by Megan Alt, a pharmacist from Miami who recently had a pretty incredible experience. Megan, thanks so much for being on the show and welcome.
Thank you.
I'm really curious, you gotta just walk me through what happened here. How did you notice that these people were in trouble and what was really going through your head at the time?
Well, truly, both of them were noticed by someone else that something was wrong. I was not the first one to either of the people First one was one of my technicians. She noticed something was wrong in the drive-through, so she alerted me. And then the second one was a employee in the front end of the store, and the security guard alerted me. So I wasn't actually the first one to these people, but I was able to help them in the incident.
So you weren't the person to find them, but you were the first person people ran to when they saw that there was trouble. They're like, hey, we got to get this pharmacist on the case.
Yes.
Cool. And really, what was going through your head when all this was happening? Were you just on the job? Or, I mean, I personally would have been frantic, so I can't even imagine what was going through your head.
I wasn't as nervous for the EpiPen with the first one. I mean, I've given one before, so I wasn't as nervous, but I was definitely nervous with giving a Narcan, especially since the patient had stopped breathing.
I can't imagine how frightening that must be, but obviously you were able to keep cool and you did your job, and these people were saved because of your quick action and quick thought. So, I mean, how really do you keep cool in a situation like that? Because I'm hoping that patients kind of coming in and passing out is not a regular occurrence, so this isn't something that you can get used to necessarily, but you were able to keep your cool. How did you do that?
Yeah, I mean, in both cases, I had technicians that were with me that I was talking out loud, whether the point was a good point or not, and they were able to, like, talk back to me and say, like, I don't know, Megan, maybe that isn't the best decision, or reassure me, like, I am doing the right thing, and even if I wasn't sure of myself, they were there to be like, it's okay, you gotta do something, like, we have to help these people.
So it kind of like a rising tide lifts all ships. You had your group around you, and you're able to kind of pass on ideas back and forth to keep yourself in the zone, basically.
Yeah.
Cool. So I'm imagining that a normal day for you is much more focused on speaking with patients and providing care, but the reality is you've always got to be prepared for something like this, just in case, it sounds like. I mean, even on a normal day, you're dispensing medication that needs to be handled with care for patients taking them. Is that more or less just your day-to-day routine?
I mean, obviously, I don't want to have to be administering, like, EpiPen or Narcan every day, but, like, I'll do it when it needs to be done. I think it's more just about being able to react to a situation and truly just, like, I was the right person in the right situation. It really was nothing special about what I did. It wasn't, like, a hero or anything, but I just was there and I did what any good person would do in the situation.
With this event in mind, I'm really curious, what made you want to be a pharmacist despite some days potentially looking like this scary one that you had?
So honestly, I wanted to be a pharmacist because I really didn't ever want to touch people.
Okay, so that kind of backfired then, didn't it?
I did not want to be the first line. Like, kudos to nurses and doctors. Like, I don't want to touch people. I think blood is gross. I want to be the person that can be there with the medications, but I don't want to touch anyone. So I wanted to be able to help people, though. I know that pharmacists are a very easily accessible healthcare professional. We're able to answer questions and point people in the right directions if we don't know how to answer the question, or if the individual needs more help from another healthcare provider. But we're people that you can go to and ask about a rash or some sort of fever or some sort of sore, and we can sort of give you, like, the first line options. And it's not something that you have to wait in the office to talk to somebody. You can just go to your pharmacist and ask them. And I think that's a really cool profession to be in, because I get to speak to, like, a lot of people. I'm the first person that they ask for a question. And even just, like, knowing that, like, anyone can come ask a question. It doesn't matter. Like, they can ask it on the phone if they don't want to, tell me who they are, or ask it in the drive-thru or in person. I just like being an accessible part of the healthcare profession.
Well, Megan, I think kudos goes completely to you in this scenario. I cannot even imagine the situation, but you were fantastic, and I just have nothing but the most appreciation for you. Megan Alt, thank you so much for being on our X Report. We loved having you. For our final story, we invite a member from APHA's research and scientist community to hear more about what her recent work has entailed and what the community has been up to. So please join me in welcoming Adati Tarfa. Adati, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
It is great to have you. We are very happy to have you on the show because you are our first member spotlight. You are taking that premier position.
Awesome.
So, yeah, I mean, it is awesome, right?
Yeah.
So I hear you're part of the APhA research and science community. Can you tell me a little bit about how you got involved with them and what work you've been doing there?
Yes. So I got involved with the research and science community since I was a PhD student at University of Wisconsin-Madison School of Pharmacy. There was a huge representation for the research and science community, and my mentors were part of it. And we used to come to APhA specifically for the Science Day to talk about our research. So all the students, PhD students, any type of students has to stand up and share what they're working on, whether they're on the job market, what their research area. And so that exposure was very phenomenal and really ingrained in us through APhA. So that's really how I got involved.
See, I'm glad you explained that, because if I heard, hey, we need to go to a science day, that's when I would bring like the baking soda volcano, and then I would find out I'm surrounded by pharmacist professionals who know 50 times more than me and be completely embarrassed. So that's great to have that context. What really is your favorite part about the community? You've been involved for a while. I imagine you've been working with them for some time. What are you doing there?
Oh, I think my favorite part of this community that's very unique, especially for pharmacists and people that are in research, is communicate in research. And so there's been numerous opportunities. I am currently chairing a postgraduate part of the association. And what we do is there are opportunities for us to write about our research. There are opportunities for us to actually have experiences of interviewing with mentees and mentors.
So, Adati, you've been involved with APhA for quite some time. You've been involved with pharmacy for quite longer. And I'm curious, what is a unique pharmacist perspective, like an Adati pharmacist perspective story that you can tell us, like that only really happened to you?
Okay, yeah, so that's an excellent question. The big one that comes to mind is talking about pharmacy research and seeking pharmacy fund. And so I've been part of research initiatives that are interested in having pharmacists increase access to medication for opioid use, HIV testing, and so on, and coming to our funding agencies and telling them, we want to see how pharmacists can integrate some of these research initiatives in community pharmacies, and then being asked, can pharmacists do that? Because pharmacies look busy and overwhelming. And so most of my experience in that area or that unique instance is really telling people that we need to fund pharmacy research. So if pharmacists can't really do it, we need to do a rigorous analysis of why they can't do it and see if there are other alternatives. Can we involve pharmacy students? Can we involve pharmacy technicians? But that actually hasn't been just one instance, but it happens to me a lot of times talking to funders about why pharmacy research needs to be funded. And who better can do it than a pharmacist and then someone that's involved in pharmacy research? And that really has been my unique experience as a pharmacist.
Right, like who better for that to come from than from the pharmacist's mouth themselves, like the person who works with that personally and then can further explain it to potential funders.
Exactly, yeah.
All right, Adati, I've got one more question for you before I let you go. You are an APhA member pharmacist. You've been involved with APhA for quite some time, and you have a wealth of knowledge with the science and research community. So I'm really curious, if you could create or lead a new initiative for members, what would that be?
Research opportunities for student pharmacists and research faculty or PhD students. I think there is a connection that can be made there. When I was a pharmacy student, I was part of the ACIP, and we didn't have a lot of research opportunities. And now we have this research and science communities. I would love to see pharmacy students get involved one way or the other.
Love to hear it. You're passing on that knowledge from one to the next. It sounds like a beautiful initiative. All right. Adati Tarfa from the Yale School of Medicine and APhA member pharmacist, thank you for being our member spotlight on this week's RX Report. We loved having you.
Awesome. Thank you.
And that is our show. If this podcast made you want to save a life in a drive-thru, then leave us a like and subscribe. And also maybe rethink that goal. Be sure to leave us a comment on anything and everything that we've talked about today. We would love to hear from you. Our executive producer is Rob Hodges. Our creative producer and co-editor is Kate Erdmann. And till next time, I've been your host, Mason Manuel. Be sure to tune in next Friday for more RX Report, where you get your health, your news delivered. But till then, bye y'all.